Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Good evening, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. Welcome to the show. We're glad that you're with us again, whether you're watching us live or you're listening to us on a podcast. We're happy to have you here. As always, remember to like, share, follow, and comment. We love your comments.
And we have some news. May not be news if you've been watching the posts that we've been doing, but we now have 6 outlets, and one of them has a flat tire right now. LinkedIn is having trouble, so you may not be, if you tried LinkedIn, to switch on over to one of the Facebooks or one of the YouTubes. We now have 3. We now have 3 Facebook pages that we broadcast on. Meet the Author Podcast. We have the WLFE-DB Radio Network, and the other Facebook page is the WLFE-DB Variety Unlimited shows. The LinkedIn page is RC and JP Carter. Sorry, it's not working. And 2 YouTube channels now. Indie Book Source is a good one to go to, or WLFE-DB Radio is the other one. So lots of choices there, and you may not be able to see the comments if you're on YouTube. You may not be able to see the comments that are on Facebook, but we'll bring up the comments because we can see all of them.
So you'll see them eventually.
As a matter of fact, Trisha's on YouTube right now
saying hello.
Hello.
And George is saying hello. Well, President Accounted For is on Facebook.
Hello, George.
So you won't see what each other is saying, but you're there. So before we get started with our first guest, I did want to, here's Ben Coleman. Thanks to KJ, I've discovered a new podcast. Great.
Hello, Ben. Welcome aboard.
Ben, I'm sure that KJ is just dying to say hello to you, and we'll be bringing her up in just a minute. Before that, we have a little bit of family business to share. And those of you that are with us frequently, following the podcast, have gotten to know Chanel, thank you, Chanel Fletcher. And she's often in the audience, and we like her very much. She's always positive and uplifting and has
great support.
Yeah, and has great things to say to everybody. As many of you know, she has an 11-year-old autistic son. And on the Monday before Thanksgiving, she found out that she has multiple myeloma, and it has spread to all the bones in her body. She has already started treatment. She had ports put in, so I'm assuming that she's having chemotherapy. But she did tell me that it was okay if I talked about it on the show. So I just wanted to ask everyone who's watching or listening to keep her in your thoughts. Pray for her. If you pray, we've been praying for her. If you're a Reiki master, send healing energy to her. Whatever your belief system is, just keep up the good, positive thoughts, and
Yes.
Just lots of positive energy around her whenever she's on the show. She's a really good person, and she can use all of our uplifting, I think.
Right. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. Well, without much ado, I think we should bring in author KJ Waters, science fiction and time travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she did her research by being a time traveler. Isn't that what she said?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, no? Okay. Well, we'll let her tell us what's going on.
Hi, KJ.
Hi, KJ.
Hello. Good to see you. Thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. We're really excited to have you on. As you saw, Ben said hello to you all before. Oh, and Lorianne is here.
Maria and Ben. Hey guys, they're my Facebook buddies. Thanks for coming.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Yes. And go ahead and comment whatever you want. That's what we're here for. We love this. It's like old time radio. Here you go. Look. Hi, KJ. You look fabulous. That's Lorianne.
Thank you, Lorianne.
She does. She really looks fabulous.
Thanks.
So, oh, yep, we've got more comments.
Team Money.
Hashtag Team Money.
Thanks, Ben. You're welcome.
Well, KJ, why don't we start out and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started writing?
All right. I'm a mom of three, and I have a undergrad in marketing and a master's in marketing as well. And I never thought I would be a writer. It was always difficult for me to write. I remember in undergrad just struggling through these like papers, and you're just like, oh my God, this is horrid. So it was not something that was in my mind, but in marketing, of course, you write a whole lot. So I did a lot of marketing, the most boring things you could imagine, the HMO policies between the subscriber and, boring stuff. So I finished my master's degree though, and that you're kind of like compressed into like, if you don't learn how to write, it's going to take you forever and you'll never have a personal life. So I got pretty good at it, just, thrown into the fire. But I still hadn't thought like, yes, I'm going to write a book. I just didn't think I had the right personality. I thought you had to be really structured and organized, and apparently not, as it turns out. But I had been listening to The Outlander on Books on Tape through Diana Gabaldon, and she has something called Outlandish Companion, where she gives details of all the different characters. And one of the things she said was how she writes. And she writes a scene, and then she writes a completely unrelated scene, and then she kind of bridges them. And I thought, oh God, that's so unorganized. I could do that. I could totally scatter story pieces everywhere. No, that's not how I write, but it kind of gave me the confidence. Like, you don't have to be a certain type of person to be a good writer. You can be a creative mess. I'm not saying that's me, but that's where I thought I was at that point. So fast forward to 2004, and I moved to Florida. 3 days later, Hurricane Charlie hit. You guys live in Florida, so you know what that summer was like. Within 6 weeks, 4 major hurricanes hit Florida, and some of them crisscrossed right over my house, which was great fun with 2 small children. And like, thanks, Florida. What are we doing? Why are you? But the next year, I started chewing on that. I thought that's a pretty dramatic backdrop for something. And being inspired by time travel, I just thought there was, as an author, there's so much potential in where you can put people and put time periods and places and situations. I've always been kind of fascinated with historical fiction, like imagining as a woman how you would be a modern woman back in time, what you needed to deal with, how the people treated you, what kind of weird stuff you had to wear, all those things. So time travel seemed pretty enticing to me. And so I started, we drove from Florida to Maine on vacation, which is, I don't recommend the drive part, but the Maine part is great, especially if you live in Florida, to get away from the heat. That's what we were talking about a minute ago. And on that trip, I had lots of time to kind of just put together a story. And I thought I had written one book, and I sat and explained it all to to a couple, 2 of my friends. And they're like, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. I think that's 3 books. And I was like, I just plotted out 3 books. So that's when I got started, 2005. And it took me about 10 years to write my first book, Stealing Time. Mostly because I moved, I had another baby, I did all kinds of other things in that time, and focusing on children instead of writing was kind of the deal when you've got infants that need to stay alive because you're around. So, priorities.
So this was the first book that you were talking about, Stealing Time. Yes, so people can see, by KJ Waters. Those of you that are listening, it's a really nice cover.
Was that an actual picture from the hurricane that you first experienced?
No, actually, the lightning, one of my best friends is a photographer, and those are lightning strikes from Texas.
Ah,
This is
Wow.
from, and so we used them. He actually he's great in Photoshop. He made a brush. You could just make a, wherever you want, make them bigger or smaller. And so we had a bunch of lightning strikes. So it was just kind of fun. He
Wow.
helped me put this cover together. I'm kind of the idea person, and he's the technical. Okay, what do you want? Okay, let's do it. Move it bigger, smaller, So we were a great team. And from this cover, I started Blondie's books, Blondie's custom book covers. We now do book covers for indie authors, and all of my covers are done by both of us, either through his actual photography, like the lightning pieces, or the clocks, or the photographs that he took that we've then manipulated. So we've done lots of covers for different people, and it's a lot of fun.
Let me show the second book, Shattering Time. Again, you have the clock and the lightning striking the clock. It's a very visual idea of what the book is about.
Yep, and the arrow, the Native American arrow striking the center of the clock in the shadow.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. And this is the third one, Killing Time.
Yep, third one just came out.
That's really good too.
Thank you. Yeah, they look similar, but the coloring's different, and various details about the time period that they go back in. This one, if you look closely, you'll see that the hands of the clock are actually guns, and it's Jesse James's actual pistol.
Pistols.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where Ben jumps in and tells me how I said that wrong, because he was he helped me with some of the details of
And then there's this one.
Yeah, and I have a short story, Blow. This one is not time travel. It is just the intensity. It's a short story, the intensity of the Hurricane Ivan. I have a Facebook friend named Rick who actually was in his house when the roof blew off during Hurricane Ivan. He lives in Pensacola. And so I kind of interviewed him and got lots of good details and wrote the story kind of based on what he had gone through.
Yes, I told you the other day, when you wrote that, when you first published that, I was like, okay, that hits a little bit too close to home because we lived through all those same hurricanes that you had lived through. And as I told you, my sister's house got what she was not for Ivan,
Charlie,
but for Charlie. She got, her house was kind of totaled.
Yeah, he was right in Punta Gorda, and we were talking about that too. Hurricane Charlie was coming up and predicted to hit Tampa. So Tampa was, and that's where you all are. Tampa was evacuated, and Hurricane Charlie did a little wobble, and I have that in the book. There's a reason for the wobble in my book. It was on purpose. But then it hit more Punta Gorda, which is south of Tampa by a good measure. So all the people that evacuated, some of them went there. It didn't really help them. Some of them went to Orlando from Tampa, and then the storm went straight over Orlando.
Right. It hit us. It hit us, and then it went up to Orlando. And all four of those came through every single time. I remember with Charlie, it blew down one of our fences. And so I had said to Rob, I can't stand it. We have to have the fence put up right away. So we got the fence put up. The next one came through, blew down the same fence. And he said, that's staying down until hurricane season's over.
And that was smart because then there was
two more came through. Yeah. And our next door neighbors every time went to Orlando to
get
evacuate.
away.
Escape.
And every time then it went straight over Orlando, and we were like, well, your evacuation plan isn't working.
Yeah, you need to go to well, I was going to say Virginia. That's where my family was, but we evacuated during Francis, me and the kids, up to Virginia, and the remnants came up, and there was flooding. They didn't have water. They didn't have electricity. I'm like, come on, ease off, guys.
I know.
It was an interesting summer.
Yes, and it was pretty hard to get away from any of those. So all of these books are really, amazing as far as that goes. And because you lived through it.
I did, and it was like we didn't have a whole lot of damage, but the last hour of the last hurricane, we had a branch drop into our roof and poked a hole in it in our Florida room, and it flooded the whole thing. And it was the tree that we were about to take down after Francis, but a bald eagle, as the guys were there, a bald eagle landed in the tree, and all of our neighbors came out and said, "You can't cut that down." So we didn't. And then it.
So did they pay for the repair of the Florida room?
Of course not. They were nowhere to be seen.
That's funny.
Yeah. But, well, we were pretty lucky. I mean, we didn't have a lot of it. It was just branches everywhere, and man, just moved in. But,
Yep. We've lived through a few here, and we've been good so far.
man,
You were going to say something?
Yeah, KJ, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe if you feel like it, could you tell us, time travel seems like a really tough thing to write about. What is the most difficult thing, or what did you find was the most difficult thing to overcome?
Well, I'm not a math person, and I have math anxiety. And so for me, the explanation of the time travel, but I have a secret weapon. My son is a physics and math major.
He got all the genes. Okay.
He got all the genes. It skipped me. Went from my dad straight into him. But he really helped me a lot. Now, of course, when he was younger, he was just listening to the story and giving me story ideas. But now it's like, okay, string theory and multiverse theory. Did I describe it right? Is it, you don't want to get, I don't get really technical in there, but I wanted there to be science behind it that would make enough sense. And of course, he's kind of literal, and he's like, "Mom, there's no time travel." I'm like, "I know, but in my world there is." And so we need to come up with some explanation for it. So like in Killing Time, I go a lot more into what is causing it and how the mechanism of it happens. Yep, there's Killing Time. And it was a lot of fun just to kind of dive into the science a little bit. And like I said, it's not science heavy. It's not like an encyclopedia. It's part of the story. People are talking about it. I don't do a lot of data dump. I don't do any data dump. I do, all of the information, whether it's backstory or whatever, is put in through dialogue. And I spend a lot of time to be clever about how I include enough information so they can get into the story. Like Killing Time is the third book, but I put it in a way so that you can jump right into that book and find out what's going on. Now, if you're one of the detail people that want to know all the little pieces that led up to that, then start with the first book. But you can start with the third book, understand completely what's happening with the story. I have a development editor who he compared. I can't even say what he compared to, because it sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not. But he really liked how I included that, because he hadn't read the other books, and he felt like he knew exactly where they were in the story and kind of what had led up to it without all the gory details. So I tried really hard to make sure that I got all that. This is. Do you guys want to read that?
Sure. Hey, KJ, I just missed the start of the live stream, but was wondering if you were also going to talk about the other series, Blondie's Diner. And just so you know, Oz, the reason that we read these out is because this is then broadcast as a podcast tomorrow to all the big streaming services. So
to all the listeners.
To all the listeners who don't know what you just said.
So now, do you remember the question?
Do you want to talk about the other series, Blondie's Diner?
Thank you, Oz. It is a book that I haven't published yet, but I just did NaNoWriMo. Today's December 1st. For those of you listening to this in the future, or if you've traveled back in time to listen to it,
There you go.
NaNoWriMo is November National Novel Writing Month, and you're trying to get 50,000 words written. And so I spent NaNoWriMo on Blondie's Diner, and I have about 10,000 words to finish it. It's the beginning of a brand new series. It's kind of a small town cozy mystery based in coastal Virginia. And it's about a little diner called Blondie's Diner, as you could probably guess from the title. But it's a little switch of a genre. It's a little tamer. A lot of my readers love the tension and all the excitement and the thriller-esque, like each chapter ends in a hook and all that. And this is a little tamer. and it's been like switching gears. It's like killing time. These things are happening, and now it's like Blondie Steiner's a little nicer. So some of my readers will be happy about that. My one of my big fans she's like, oh, it's so stressful. I don't know if I can finish the book. I'm like, so this will be more under like her version, but I still, I can't help but like all the twists and turns, and I have, all these little storylines weaving through that then will lead into the next book in the series.
Yeah, I was going to ask you on the Stealing Time series, is there main characters that go throughout the entire series, or is it a different groups of people, or?
No, it's a good question. It's all contiguous. So it starts August 13th, Friday the 13th, when Charlie hit, and it's that whole summer. So it's all the same people, the same time period, the same, it's all like very rushed. It's like ticking clock.
Okay, cool. Just like reality. Okay.
Yeah, during that summer, yes, exactly. Yeah, so the main character is Ronnie Andrews. I chose Andrews because of Hurricane Andrew that kind of decimated Miami. And she moves to Florida, just like I did. 3 days later, Hurricane Charlie hits, which happens to be on her birthday. And she's moving to be closer to her best friend, Steph McKay, and her boyfriend, Jeffrey. And those three characters are viewpoint characters throughout all three of the books. So you'll get to kind of get the inner thoughts of all three of them. Steph is her stalwart friend, is always there for her, believes her when she says she went back in time. Jeffrey comes across as being this wonderful guy until you get deeper into it and you realize that he's the one doing the time traveling. He works at a cloud weather lab, and he knows that there's a long road to get to human experimentation. So he thinks, why not on her birthday? It'll be fun. We'll send her back. And the first book, she goes back to 1752 in London. And when she travels, her body stays in the current world, and her soul or essence or mind, or however you look at that stuff, is what goes back in time. So as she goes back in time, she lands in another body. And in Stealing Time, she lands in the body of a 17-year-old girl who just got hit by a carriage, and she kind of is a little bit confused. And her brother comes and picks her up and takes her back, knowing that she's a little bit hurt. But when she starts acting like a modern woman, talking back, refusing medical treatment, and if you know anything about 1752, medical treatment was bloodletting with very gross, rusty instruments, and other questionable medical procedures that she was like, oh no, you're not getting near me. So she starts acting modern, and Jack is her brother, is married to Catherine, who's pregnant, and Catherine is convinced that Regina, who she is the person that she went into, is a witch. So now she's up against that whole stigma of being a witch, and there's a witch trial, and all these other things happen to her.
Boy.
She's trying to save her life, and like, how do I get back? She has no idea how she got there. So it's
really interesting.
Yeah.
That's all in book one.
And poor Regina,
Right.
poor Regina
Poor Ronnie.
is now branded as a witch, and she's never done anything wrong or witchy-like.
She just showed up in the wrong time in the wrong place.
I can certainly see why people
She
in
might
the
have dressed up on Halloween.
1700s would think that things that we do now normally or believe now would be witchcraft.
Yep. Absolutely. And and
talking on this phone.
Yeah. Well, just being a
Just
woman.
astrally projected, so
Yeah.
but her belief system would seem
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and just the fact that she, women back then, especially a 17-year-old girl, unmarried, would not talk back to their brother. They wouldn't refuse a doctor, a figure of authority. There's a lot of things that she would just be quiet, do what you're told. And what her brother's trying to do is marry her off to a richer family because he's mismanaged their family funds. So he sets her up on a meet and greet with this creepy 40-year-old man who's very posy. And she's like, oh no, I'm not even going to do this. And of course her brother's not real happy. And that's when the accusations come out.
Really good. Brings in a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah. And exploring just, how are women different now? How do we we're just mostly collateral back then. You weren't allowed to have opinions, you weren't allowed to work, you weren't allowed to, some of them got tutors and learned how to read, but like it wasn't like anyone invested in you at all. So it was just kind of fun to explore that. I get to go do that without having to suffer. I can go into my little pretend world and go back to whatever time period I want. So to answer your question about time travel, the difficulty has been the physics part of it, but the rest of it has just been a blast because I get to do all kinds of things that you couldn't really do. There's no time travel.
Right.
And living as a woman in a different time period and kind of explore that. It's fascinating to me.
So has it been research heavy to see that you get the Moors correctly and actually even, where it's taking place? And England is different than if it had been taking place here at the same time period. So
yeah, exactly. It is very research heavy. And then I employ lots of experts. So I have a Native American expert, for the time periods. In Shattering Time, she goes back to early America, and Killing Time, she goes back to the Wild West. So there's some, you can't get it wrong. You lose your readers if you're just making stuff up. So one of the things that caught me in Stealing Time, I had some beta readers read it, and they're like, you would never empty a chamber pot in a country in a city house. And I'm like, I'm an American, how do I know this stuff? So, you had to go back and you're like, oh no, get some British person with history to fix it, please. So,
exactly. So Ben says, where would Rob and Joan visit if they could go back in time? Well, that's a no-brainer for me because I know exactly where I'd go, and those people that know me would know where I would go. I'd go to Egypt. Back to the time of the pharaohs, probably to the time of King Tutankhamun.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Or Queen Hatshepsut, his mother, chicken soup, some people call her. Yeah, I'd go to Egypt. Where would you go?
I'd probably go back to the 60s when I was younger.
Would you redo anything or do something different?
No.
Be very careful.
No, I would do everything exactly the same.
Exactly the same, just to relive it. I don't buy that for a second.
It'd be great to relive it.
And here is a typical George comment. My third wife can give you lots of first-hand information about witchcraft.
George.
He's no longer married to his third wife, just so you know. He has a lovely wife now, a sweet lady.
Well, on that note, I think we better break for commercial. And when we get back, we're going to have a great book giveaway. And we'll talk some more about these time traveling ideas that you have.
And thanks for the question, Ben.
Yes.
It was a good one.
So hang in there, everybody. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Hey, look at us. We've got a new store.
Yeah, we do. It's pretty exciting.
What can you find there?
We have a number of designs available on t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, laptop and phone cases, pillows, and new designs are coming in all the time.
Sounds like a great place to shop for authors and readers.
Yeah, and it's easy to find. It's simple. Just visit indiebooksource.com, click on the store tab, and you're there.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Behold, this one about a man, a woman, a black jaguar, and an ancient Maya legend. Two Faces of the Jaguar is a novel by George Dismukes that will take you deep into the jungle and capture your imagination until the last word. Two Faces of the Jaguar is book one of a trilogy. Two Faces of the Jaguar, where only the adventurous dare to read.
Two Faces of the Jaguar, The Lost City, and The Jaguar's Quest are available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and many other bookseller websites. Two Faces of the Jaguar, the book people are talking about. Get your copy today.
Hello, we're back.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'd like to get up some of your info here so that people can know how to reach you that are listening or watching. All right, so KJ's website is www.kjwaters.com. That's KJWATERS. You can find her on Facebook at KJ Waters Author. You can find her on Twitter. We're making this easy for you tonight, people. It's at KJ Waters Author.
And now we throw a curveball.
Yes. Instagram is KAMAJOWA.
Kamajoa.
Okay,
It's nice.
Kamajoa.
Native-
I remember the
Native
first time
American.
I pronounced it. Kamajoa. And on LinkedIn, KJ Waters. Okay, we have another comment here.
We have more to talk about.
Yeah, I'll bring it up in a minute.
Oh, okie dokie.
Lorianne said, speaking of witchcraft, I can twitch my nose like Elizabeth Montgomery of Bewitched, but nothing happens. LOL. Well, that in alone, Lori,
That's a feat.
yes. It's an
Well,
excellent
it's a nose, actually.
thing
not a
to
feat,
be
but-
able to do.
I think when she does that, there's an alternate universe that something does happen. She just doesn't know.
That's probably it. Yeah,
Lori,
maybe
you're
another
magic.
time. Yeah.
You're magic, girl.
Or you never know, the whole Mandela effect might go into effect here and things have changed. Houses
That's
are
right, you
different
don't
colors.
There you go.
You never know.
You
Because
Oh.
I still swear that
See?
the Wicked Witch said, the evil stepmother said, mirror, mirror on the wall, not magic mirror, but she did. Lori says if she could, there would be a lot of frogs around. There are a lot of frogs around, Lori.
There are, yeah.
Maybe in Florida. There's
that
a lot
haven't been
They're-
turned
they're-
into princes.
They're all here in Florida, I think.
I think you have a lot of frogs.
Get to the book giveaway.
All right. Rob is anxious to do the book
Yeah,
giveaway.
yeah. It's a good one.
All right, here it goes. It's on the ticker.
There we go. Book giveaway. The first 3 people to fill in the contact form at KJ's website. That's www.kjwaters.com. Will win ebook copies of the series. One person in the U.S. will win a paperback set of the entire series. Did you want to add anything to that at all?
Yes, if you want to make it easy to find the contact form, go to my website and hit the welcome tab. And there's just a very simple page with the welcome tab there, and you can just fill it in, and I will pick a winner. You don't usually do it during the show. I'll pick it after the show.
No. Yeah, you
no,
take care of it
no.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
don't
want
worry
to
about it.
fast. I'll probably fail it at all. So.
Some people are fast on the trigger, but you can do it afterwards.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if you wanted to, we can talk about this a little bit too. She also does author consulting, and you can find that at www.kjwconsultancy.com. So that's KJWCONSULTANCY for those of you that are listening and cannot see this. So you want to tell the audience what that's all about?
Yes, I do. I, as an indie author, as probably a lot of you out there, have learned a lot of skills that you just suffered through. There's a big learning curve on a lot of these things, technological aspects, and just like how do you form the blurbs and the keywords and all of that stuff. So once I'd been doing this for about 7 or 8 years, I had the idea to help other people, and I had so many wonderful people help me. The indie author community is amazing, and
Right.
not just indies, the author community.
That's right.
And there are so many people out there that gave me such great advice.
Right.
And, just really helped me kind of lift me up so that I could make it, we're all kind of helping each other up. So when I had this skill set, I thought, why not help other people? And it's kind of a passion of mine. I'm also going to be the president of a writers group here in town called CAPRUC Writers and Illustrators Alliance. I'll be president next year, and we bring in each month, have a speaker, and we have writing contests, and it's just the same kind of thing. It's just you're helping. A lot of us sit in a little dark basement. That's where I am right now, and write, and we really need to have that community around us, even if we have those skills. But to have other people to talk to, bounce ideas off of.
Right.
But the consultancy I've done, probably half of my clients are people that were taken advantage of by a publisher that mostly just wanted their money and promised the world, and what they got was discount copies to buy their own books and not really sales. So a lot of my clients are those where we help them do the book cover, establish their own publishing company, put it up on Amazon. It doesn't cost anything to get on Amazon.
That's
so
right.
Some of them, I'll do all of that for them, and with my designers' help to do the covers, and then help them figure out keywords and categories and covers, all of those things. The other half are people that either just want coaching, like, hey, I'm publishing my book. I kind of know what I'm doing, but if I get stuck, can I call you? So I'll do like Zoom calls and give them, good advice, or go through their website. Here's what I suggest you can do to improve it. Here's, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. So they don't
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you should be doing that you
until you run into it. And then you find out you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
George has a question for you. Do you believe that time travel is possible or ever will be? It's a good question.
That's a great question. And if you do research on time travel like I do, you will find out that we have already time traveled. We have time traveled about 14 seconds with this certain magnet thing. And if I had a really detailed mind, I could tell you everything about it, but it was a while ago and I don't. But if you Google it, it has time travel actually happened. And there's, if you've read any of Stephen Hawking's, his whole theory, he's got a whole bunch of theories that convince us that it's true. We just haven't quite figured out how to do it. Quantum theory tells us a lot of things about gravity bending the time scale. So, and it doesn't usually. It's not going to the past. It's going to the future, or a couple minutes here and there is all we figured out. But there's a lot of, I don't know if it's propaganda or if there's actual things, but there's people who have claimed that they were from other time periods and they came back to predict a lot of things. So it could be a great hoax.
If you Google that, you can find that particular person that you're speaking of who worked for the government and says that the government has been doing it for some time. They also, had that whole thing about remote viewing, and that's the truth. They did do that, and that did happen. Joe Conjul is here. He's in the house. Hey, Joe. Hi, everyone. Better late than never. Glad to see you here. Yeah, we're talking about time travel right now, Joe, because KJ Waters writes some wonderful books on time travel. I don't know if you've read any of her stuff, but if you look at the book giveaway at the bottom there, you can read some of her stuff for free because you could win some books. Einstein proved that time travel was possible, right?
Yeah.
That's what that's what his theories proved, the whole bending of space and time. And that's how UFOs could actually be coming back and forth without spending 5 million years on a spaceship. They could actually go through black holes.
The wormhole theory that there's an opening in time, and that's kind of a little bit of go to an alternate universe. That's what the multiverse theory is.
Right.
That, Schrodinger's cat, where you talk about if you're
in the box. Yeah. Does he dead
or alive? You have a cat in a box, not cat in the box, cat in the hat, cat in the box. Is the cat alive or dead? And by opening the box, you're changing the outcome. That's what quantum entanglement is all about.
Right.
But there's some theories that say, if you, say, if I decided to not come on this podcast, there would be a whole other universe created of the worlds with that split. And so that's kind of what I put into, you'll find out in Killing Time that that's a little bit multiverse theory, is that when Ronnie goes back, she bumps into a new alternate universe, and that starts a new sprout of time. I just made that up.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
George just says E equals MC square. That's it. It's really interesting. You know, for those of you that have been watching the show for a while, know that we are, that Rob and I are part of a team in Tampa Bay called Tampa Bay Spirits, where we investigate haunted houses. People will call us up and tell us that they've had things happening, and we've never been able to say definitely that is a ghost or whatever. You don't know what's going on. It could be alternate universes. It could be interdimensional travel. It could be a lot of stuff. Is there something going on in a lot of these houses that we go to? Yeah,
definitely.
There's stuff that we can, we can film, we can catch on our recorders, we can catch on static cameras that we leave them up all night, and we can see things moving. So there's things happening, but
that shouldn't be moving.
That shouldn't be moving. Yeah.
Voices that weren't, there was no people there, and we know
footsteps.
Now you see a lot of things on TV, a lot of the TV shows that are, okay, that may or may not be real, and that's up to those people,
Yeah.
But when we do our own,
we know it's real.
We know what we saw and that we caught and the equipment we have. So it's a whole different ballgame,
What feeds into an interdimensional theory for me is that we've been in houses that are new houses. They were, I don't mean new built that year, but maybe 20 years old. And there was never a building there before that they know of. Okay. And had all carpeted floors. And we investigated that house 4 different times. And every time that we would leave the recorder and the static cameras on all night long, you could hear boots walking on wooden floors.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Yeah, maybe a house built there in an alternate universe that you're.
Well, that's exactly right.
Who knows,
right?
Yeah.
And they may not even know that they're crossing over or whatever. Who knows? I don't know.
And in a lot of these famous houses, the ghost hunters want to attribute any activity to the famous person that was there,
But you don't know.
But how do they know? I mean, they don't know. I mean,
you can't really
they'd like to know. They'd like to, they'd like to think that they know. But
even if they say who they are on the recorder, you don't know.
No, they could be lying. I mean,
for me, it's one big, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm George Washington. Yeah.
But interesting, very interesting.
It is.
It's interesting, and it really ties into your time travel story because of the astral projection part of it. That's an interesting idea. I think you've got something there that I haven't seen done before. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
to have someone astrally project into another body.
And that's not necessarily how it's described in the book, but that's a good way to put it. I kind of imagine like her mind and soul is leaving to this other plane, but isn't that kind of what astral projection is? That's pretty much the same thing. So I had to like put it in those terms, but
Joe Conjal says he hasn't read your books yet, but I look forward to reading her books. The subject is intriguing. And it is like you'd probably miss that part, Joe, because you came in late, but she has her people traveling astrally, projecting, not their body going into the space. George says, nice. I heard voices speaking, Petch or Peck. I'm sorry if I'm brutalizing that.
We don't speak
George,
ancient Mayan.
I don't.
So.
Ancient Mayan in a pyramidal temple at Tikal, Guatemala, many years ago. That's really interesting. That is really interesting. That to me would be a haunt, not a not an interdimensional, but that to me would be a haunt. There are some things that we come across that I'm pretty sure are a haunt, and some things that I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. But yeah, it's
I wanted
interesting.
to mention too, I have a giveaway going on my website.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I created a playlist for Killing Time, and I made a little giveaway to go with it. It's a Spotify playlist, but you can listen to it on my website. I created one. The story takes place in 2004, so some of them are songs from that time period. Some of them are specific, like chapter titles are named particular songs. One scene, Ronnie is wearing a T-shirt with, I'll just give you one of American Idiots, and she's another point she's singing a song from Green Day about, can't wait till September ends, which is how we all felt in 2004 if you lived in Florida.
Right.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so it's just stuff like that. So the playlist, I'm giving away $100, and I'm giving away hardbacks of Killing Time, which don't even exist yet. So you'll be the very first person to get a hardback of Killing Time. And I have, just a couple other books that I'm throwing in there. So it's totally a random draw. So if you haven't read the books, it doesn't really matter. It's more just kind of to pull you into the story, to give you, it's just a little quiz of these chapter titles fit with this particular song, to get you thinking about the story. And if you've read it, then you might know it. Some of them may not necessarily fall in, but you'll see it when you go to my website. You can find the playlist and the giveaway entry. I'm giving, I'll be giving away before the end of the year. I haven't decided yet. I'll just wait to see how many entries come in. But
okay, so remember, people, that's go to www.kjwaters.com, and you can find all the info on that. And I mean, $100 is $100.
And enter to win the books for the show.
That's right.
Yep.
So
Both things.
this is like a win-win-win, right?
I know. And George says, I was the only one there in a rainstorm. He's talking about being in that Mayan pyramid. And yeah, a lot of people believe that water as a conductor makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
Water and limestone combined would be a pretty good conductor for,
I think there's a lot of limestone down there.
Yeah, or whenever you're near quartz or anything like that. We use quartz in transmitters. So
interesting. What about Hurricane? That's got a lot of water in it.
It's got a lot of water.
There you go. Everyone knows it's windy.
It's kind of windy. Might be some limestone blowing around. I don't know.
There was one more banner I wanted to put up again one more time, was the author consulting, because I think a lot of people will be interested in that. So KJ explained that very well.
Yeah,
but go to www.kjwconsultancy.com. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you talking about my website. KJW Consultancy is the website. I offer to anyone a free half-hour consultation. So anyone listening that just wants to throw me a bunch of questions or have me look at their website for some suggestions, I love doing that. It's just a lot of fun for me to meet different authors. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll end up collaborating on something or pull you into our Caprock Writers. I love just making connections with people. So you can go to the contact form either on the consultancy or my kjwaters.com and just say, hey, I'd like the free half hour, and we'll set up a Zoom call. Or if you're local, we'll go meet for coffee. It'll be fun.
So George just said, really? Pyramids are made from limestone.
Well, that makes sense. I thought there was a lot of limestone out there.
Yeah, so the rain and the limestone, you often get a lot of hunting there. It's
very conducive.
It's very conducive to hunting and then being able to cross the veil, so to speak. So, yeah.
Interesting. Huh?
And we don't even want to write about that.
You're making me want to write a ghost story. Jeez.
Yeah, we've actually started a series that we're going to do about paranormal
that's
investigating. Yeah.
But we need to time travel to get more time in order to be able to write it.
Wouldn't that be great?
Chanel.
Oh, here's Chanel. Hi, Chanel.
Hi, Chanel.
We're really glad to see you here. We, at the top of the hour, we told everyone what you're going through. So people will be praying for you and sending you good thoughts. And
hope you're having a good day.
Yeah, I hope you are. You feeling okay, Chanel? We'll give her time to answer.
She's going through that. That's really tough.
Yeah, but we'll think good things.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a big thing, but I also think it's good to always be positive and surround yourself with positive people. And I believe in miracles, so we'll just keep praying for her, or sending her vibes, or whatever your thing is, your good energy, or good thoughts. No. Chanel says, "Thank you so much. Pain level is incredibly high, but I'm here." Well, we're so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that you are able to tune in and talk with us and let us know what's going on. I'm really sorry your pain level is high.
We're standing with you.
Yeah, we are. We love you, Chanel. So that would be a good time to time travel.
Yeah.
To where there's a cure for cancer.
Where there's a cure and relief. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But she's traveling back in time. Your heroine.
Yes. We haven't figured out to go forward in time yet, but you never know. There's more books. I'm working on Fracturing Time, which is the fourth book in the series, and it starts right as Killing Time ends, like a minute later. I actually meant Killing Time to end at a different place, but during the pandemic, two of my kids got sick, and so they were quarantined, and then I felt sick, but I didn't get it. But I was quarantined up in my room, and I took that week and I replotted the whole ending, and it turned out to be way too much. So that is like Fracturing Time is like mostly written. I have about 60,000 words and Ronnie's timeline. I have to do some of the other things that happen.
When time was actually fractured for you.
It was. Right? It was.
Chanel says Wrinkle in Time is one of her favorites from childhoods. I love that series too.
I did too. I listened to my stepmother and dad would read to us. We'd go out into the forest in Pennsylvania and Virginia, and we would sit under a tree and read all these books, and Wrinkle in Time was one of them. It was just a magical experience to be in such a beautiful place and hear these creative stories. Probably deep in my subconscious, that's what's pushing out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe, that whole series. That's
me too.
I really liked reading, and the thing that I liked about reading was it took you to different places, and different times. And I love historical novels, and that's actually why I asked if it was research heavy, because I've always thought writing historical novels is pretty difficult,
It's tough. Yeah. And I mean, you think about it too, like in Shattering Time, I send her back to 3 different places, and one of them is the Lost Colony of Roanoke Island, if you all are familiar with
that. Yes.
of North Carolina. I sent her there.
Anything paranormal we know about.
Yeah. The cool thing about that is that no one really knows what happened. So I made a version, and you're not going to tell me it isn't true.
Yeah. Well, they think they do know now. I don't know if you know that or not.
They have. Yeah, I've seen some of that. But, it's been a mystery, an American mystery, like one of the very first colonies. For anyone that doesn't know, one of the first colonies, people made a colony there, and they sent their Governor White back to England to get more supplies.
Yeah.
And when he came back 2 years later, he actually got held up because of the war with Spain. When he finally came back, his daughter was there and had a baby, and so he came back to not just for his governorship but for family. And there was no trace of him. Every building was gone. All of the people were gone. And so I had a pretty good explanation of what happened. And you'll have to read the book to find out what it was.
That was in Shattering Time.
That's in Shattering Time. Yeah, she goes back to 3 days. She also goes back in Shattering Time. She goes back to the Fire of London in 1666. And this is a story element that carries through to Fracturing Time. She lands in the body of a little girl who has the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
Back in those times, they would nail you into your house so that you couldn't get out and spread it. They at least knew a little bit about it.
Probably at least we're not nailing people into their house.
I think we got it easy here.
They would nail them into their house. How did they get food? And
they would they would send it through, I don't know, a lot of times they had windows above the doors and stuff. They would send food over or hope you were good, like sometimes. But what I did to these poor people is that I set the Fire of London right after they got mailed in. And so now they smell smoke, and not only are they sick with bubonic plague, they're locked into their rooms, and the Fire of London starts. So
Wow.
I like to torment my characters.
Wow. Yeah, the past always seems so romantic, doesn't it? Until you find what life was really like, and then you're like, nope, I'm outie.
Yeah, I'm good. I like being modern. I have a house with air conditioning and a bathroom. I'm good.
And in Florida, boy, when our electricity goes out because of our hurricanes, we are not happy.
Yes, it's very miserable.
It is.
Well,
It's
come
miserable.
to think of it, the 60s weren't that great. We had the war going on. We had assassinations, riots. It wasn't such a great time. I think I'll skip that one.
Yeah, go somewhere more fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, KJ, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What advice would you have to give to a wannabe author, or an aspiring author, we should say, that's doesn't know how to get started? Just kind of in a short,
Yeah, no, I could probably talk for 3 hours on that, but I'll keep it quick. I think the most important thing is to write. There's all these other distractions. Now, as a marketer, I'm going to tell you to make a website and start social media way before you have your book, so that you actually have a following by the time you put it out. But as you're doing that for fun and getting that going, just having nice little chats with people, make sure that you spend your time writing. Don't be so distracted by all these other things that people tell you to do. You cannot be a writer without a book or without a project. So what I had to do is I turned this basement that used to be full of toys and was this gross old wood paneling, painted it, cleared it out, and made myself a place that I could write. And I dedicate my first at least 2 hours every morning writing. So I would say get in the habits of writing, make something, create your craft, whether it's just getting to your million words that make you a good writer or not. So focus on the craft.
So while you were cleaning out the basement, were those 2 posters, were they there? You went, whoa, that's a great idea.
So Lorianne says the key ingredient to a successful author is keeping their audience's attention from the start. It's called the grabber. And you manage to do this with all of your work. And most importantly, you stay true to yourself.
That's fantastic, Lorianne.
And then once you start writing and you have created those characters,
they don't
you have
shut
to
up.
stay true to them, because they're not going to let you do stuff with them that they wouldn't do.
Right. And Lorianne has a good point. I mean, it's crucially important to, start your book off with the first sentence, the first paragraph, the first page, the first chapter that grabs the reader. Don't just data dump. I read a couple indie books that are just, this is everything that happened to lead up to my very first sentence, and no one wants to hear all that. Add that in little pieces later. But Lori's right. Lorianne is right. You have to give a hook. You've got to grab your reader. But as a wannabe writer, the first thing you have to do is get down there and write. I would say go online, go to 20 books to 50K. The number's 20 books and the word 2 and then 50K. So it's 20. You're supposed to write 20 books to get $50,000. That is a great website with lots of great information. You want to read what Lorianne said?
Because people are like mother-in-laws. They lose interest fast.
She's so
That's
funny.
funny.
You're right, Lorianne. Yeah,
If
you got to
my
catch up.
kids-in-law are listening, I am always interested.
Yeah, well, you're a good mother-in-law.
Yeah, I'm a good mother-in-law.
I have a good mother-in-law, but a lot of people don't. Like my poor sister. Anyway.
I have 6 kids-in-law.
Oh, that's great. A couple other sites for people, of course, is your site. You guys have a lot of good information on there. Great podcast to listen to other authors
IndieBookSource.com. Yes.
Yeah. Say it again.
IndieBookSource.com.
IndieBookSource.com. With these great, like you're learning from all these authors. You've got lots of information over there. Kindlepreneur is another really good site. Has lots of great information. There's you probably could Google a few more people that have just gobs and gobs of blog posts and other marketing information and details of how to, like, videos on how to actually do some of the stuff. So there's a lot of good information out there. It just takes time to learn all these things and practice. But key element is keep writing. You know, if you don't have anything to sell, all of this marketing, you're not going to market anything. You have to have a book to write and make your author friends that can
start writing. Start writing.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't start writing. They talk about writing, but they don't write.
And the importance of marketing, if they don't see your book, if no one knows it's there, who's going to read it? How are they going to?
Yeah, marketing's a big deal, but we were talking about getting started, and
but
like,
that's part of it. You got to get your social media going and
like
get out there,
get prepared first,
get ready, and have a base so that when you do get it written, you can get it out there and keep getting it out there and keep getting it out there and just keep it on the in a queue and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like there's billions of books out there. Literally, I think now. I used to say millions, but I'm thinking it's probably closer to billions.
Yeah, but if somebody wants to write, they should just
absolutely go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're writing for yourself, really.
Yeah.
That's it. If you love what you've written, I wrote stuff that I wanted to read, and if you're passionate about a particular genre, they say write what you know. I mean, I didn't know the physics part, but I learned that. I didn't know chamber pots versus whatever.
But
you can learn a lot of that stuff.
You can learn it, yeah.
Well, Paul Hollis,
you really start with a subject matter or a premise that hits close to home, and it'll come a lot easier to start. And then you can branch out once you've kind of got that.
Right.
Paul Hollis always talks about that, write what you like to read, which, that is what we've written, what we like to read. Some of what we like to read, we like science fiction and stuff, but we really love murder mysteries. But like Paul Hollis said, is everybody tells you to write what you like to read. And he said, and then after you've gone over it 3,568 times of your own work, you don't like what you're reading.
And you hate the stupid thing. Just until the month passes and you haven't looked at it.
And that's the truth, man. The editing is like... That part is murder.
It is murder. And my last book, Killing Time, was 185,000 words. And just going from beginning to end is just like, I'm never going to get through this thing. I did. I had too many ideas and got them all down. But it goes really
we co-author. So it's like, constant rewriting. I don't like the way that sounds. I don't want to go in that direction.
You guys must get along. You've got a podcast, you do the ghost hunting stuff, and you write together. Like, if you didn't get along, I don't know if you'd still be married, because there's a lot of things together.
That's a lot of together things, isn't it? It
is.
We do get along.
We're not supposed to?
No, absolutely. I'm just picturing, like, my husband asked me to go to law school so that we could work together. I was like, oh no. First of all, I don't want to do law school. Second of all, you're kind of bossy. I'm not sure I can have that.
That's funny. It is funny.
Well, on that, we should probably wrap up.
Yeah, we've gone over time.
We're over time again.
Real quick to our audience, anyone have any more questions, comments for KJ? We'll give you a minute here. And we know the podcast should be over because our dog just came in. Like, what are you still doing on that computer? Right. Joe Conjal said, I'm sorry I missed the first half of the show. I can't wait to go back and watch tonight's podcast from the beginning. KJ is so interesting to listen to.
That is true.
That is true.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Joe's one of our authors from North Carolina.
Yep.
Great. Yeah.
So you should be able to relate.
Yes.
I need to ask him questions when I write Blondie's Diner, because it's not far from there. Like,
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I was so excited when you asked me, and it was even more exciting when I talked to you the other day. I just felt like we really clicked, and
Yeah. It's been fun.
People. Yeah, I appreciate
So are
it.
you. I told everybody it's going to be a good show. Tune in. George Dismuke says, "Yep, KJ is a good interviewee. She is. That's right, George." And George is the one we told you about. That his one of his books is going into production in January. Siren Song. And Joe Conjal says, "Contact me anytime, KJ." Yeah, he's an author. You can find him on all those social media.
And he's on Indie Bookstores.
Great.
Chrisman. Hi, Chris. How are you? Sorry, I missed it live. I'll catch the replay. Yeah, it's a good show. I think you'll enjoy it. Glad that you came in, popped in for a little bit anyway. Good to see you. Well,
okay.
Yeah, now as I
We're
said,
going to move you
we've really gone over
to the side.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, one of these days I'll figure it out. Right. Okay. Do you have anything that you want to talk about at the end here?
No, try out the different channels that we told you about.
We'll fix LinkedIn, don't worry.
Because I know some people have had trouble getting on Facebook right away. And like I said, please keep Chanel in your prayers or your thoughts or, good vibes, whatever.
Next week, we have a pre-recorded show. It's a new episode, though. Wendy Scott from New Zealand. She couldn't make it live because of her schedules and the time differences. So we had a really good interview with her, and she's on next Wednesday at 7:00.
I do have something to say about that, actually.
Okay.
Wendy, if you are a wannabe writer, an aspiring author, or a beginning author, I think she would be just as informative to listen to as KJ has been. I think both KJ and Wendy are good for people who are wanting to write.
Aspiring authors, yeah.
She has a lot of
called that.
yeah, she has a series. She has books that'll help you
as well.
to
So
get
another
to get
resource,
going. Yeah.
And then the 15th of December, we have Kim Nugent. That'll be a live show. The rest of the year, then, that sounds like a long time, but it's only 3 more episodes. They're all live episodes. The 15th will be Kim Nugent. And episode 38 on the 22nd will be Susan Kite. And on the 29th, it'll be Tori Gates. And that's episode 39. That'll round out the year. Then we'll start all over again in January. So let's see. Where are we going to go now? Oh, we're going to go home.
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute.
We are home.
We are home. Okay.
We're going to end the broadcast.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you next week. Until next time.
That's it for now.
for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-